One thing that is debated in science and has been since science began is what does it mean to be alive? And scientists have come up with some characteristics that living things have in common. So, in this section, there's about 8 characteristics that we're going to talk about that all living things have to be considered alive. So, keep these in mind as we go through this section. Um, and keep in mind that living things have to have these things to be considered alive, be considered to be considered living. I know we've talked about this before, but in any science class you're going to take, vocabulary is going to be so important. You can skip over vocabulary. You can think, oh, these are just big words that I'm never going to see again, but that's untrue. In one of the last PowerPoint slides, we looked at the purple tomatoes, and it talked about antioxidants. If you just skipped over the word antioxidant and never thought about it again during this unit, you're going to see that word through your whole entire life. And when you get to be my age, which is almost 50, you hear about antioxidants all the time, and they become an important part of your health. And so these words are important, and learning them now is going to help you through all aspects of your life. So vocabulary in science is important not only for your test or for the worksheet that you're doing, but it's important for your health and for your everyday life. So start learning these words now. You can break them up into prefixes and suffixes, and we've talked about that a little bit. So if you break words up, so for example, biology, bio meaning life, ology the study of, it will help you learn these words and help keep them in your noggin up there so that you can use them in a later time. So start learning these vocabulary words and not don't think of them as just these big words you have to learn, but try to put them into your brain as words I'm going to use in the future. We take for granted a lot of things that we know about science, and one of those things that we take for granted is that all living things are made up of cells. Living things can be just one cell. We have organisms that have only one cell, parameciums, amoebas, bacteria. Robert Hooke is one of the first people to look at cells. He looked at cork, and cork is simply pieces of a tree. And he looked underneath the microscope and he noticed that there were these boundaries, and he called these little cells like gel cells. And so he kind of coined this word cell. And so a cell is the smallest living unit of a living thing. Unicellular organisms are quite interesting. There's actually more than one type. There are very simple unicellular organisms called prokaryotes. The ones here in these pictures are actually eukaryotes. If you notice, they're actually quite complex. These are eukaryotes in that they have a nucleus and they have organelles in them. Prokaryotes are things like bacteria, in which they have no nucleus. And so here are two new vocabulary words that you're going to hear throughout the year. You have prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes have no nucleus, and eukaryotes have nucleuses. So over on the far right, you have a paramecium, and over on the far left, you have an amoeba. And so unicellular simply means that they are one-cell organisms. Uni, the prefix, means one. Cell or cellular means cell. So one-cell organisms. Okay, here we go. Our next level organization when we're talking about cells, and that's multicellular. Break it down. Multi means many, and then cellular, cells. And if we look at our three pictures here, of course, we're multicellular. We have cells that work together are tissues that work together make up organs that work together make up organ systems, and so on. And so we have us, of course, and then we have the crawdad. And then on the upper left, you're like, whoa, wait, that looks like what's on the other side. That looks like a unicellular organism from what you showed us before. But actually, it's actually a colony of organisms. And so it's actually Volvox. So it's actually a multicellular group of organisms together. So multicellular means more than one cell, and we are definitely multicellular. One of the differences with asexual reproduction is that you get exact genetic copies, which is definitely a disadvantage. There can't be any changes or adaptations, whether they're good or bad. And sometimes having the exact same copy is not a good thing. And sometimes there's not enough time to have the exact copy happen. And so up in the top, you have regeneration, where the starfish broke off a limb, and so it's regenerating that new limb. In the middle, you have budding, where you have a little bud that's starting to grow. And the same thing with the hydra down at the bottom. And simply the new part grows until it gets to a certain point, and then it just buds off and becomes a new organism, exactly genetically the same as the parent. One thing we can't run away from, no matter how hard we try, is our DNA. It's in every one of our cells, and it's unique to us. So believe it or not, even as you sit here, you are sloughing, getting rid of dead skin cells, hair cells. You're leaving them behind wherever you go. And so little pieces of you, your DNA, your identity is being left wherever you've been, wherever you've gone. And so someone can come along and determine that you've been there. Now, the likelihood that anyone is going to do that is very slim, because it's very costly. It costs money to take that very minute piece of you and take it to the lab and determine that it was you. It's very expensive. but that capability is there. DNA is a molecule within every one of your cells that is able to tell the difference between you and me and plants and butterflies and insects and sea anemones. It holds the recipe to make new things. It's so astoundingly beautiful molecule, and we're going to learn about the parts of it. And it's actually quite simple. It's only made up of 4 bases. And so DNA is this amazing molecule that is a part of our lives that we're going to learn about. Unicellular, 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 multicellular, 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 homeostasis, 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 metabolism, 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 stimulus, stimulus, stimulus,